And I would like to start with Zach.
Woo!
Woo. Do you have anything to share? Do you want me to go into the
Yeah,
video?
I have a
Okay.
PowerPoint. I made
Okay.
a beautiful
I
PowerPoint.
love it. I love it. I love the Zach points.
Uh-huh.
They make cutting these out very easy and splitting them out into videos because you do a wonderful
Hey.
job.
Wait, let me get it. Where'd it go? Hold on.
So yeah, we have a bunch of games that we're all kind of catching up on here, so it should be fun.
Only
Review
have
codes,
one.
surprisingly, tons of review codes. We're swamped. And by the way, I still have to finish editing. Stefan did a review for us. I have to finish editing, so I owe Stefan that. But next couple days here, I'll have that sucker up. Tomorrow, I'm going to see Deadpool Wolverine. Otherwise, I would have posted Stefan's review then. But let's see what. Oh, all right.
Can you guys see it? Is it big screen? Big screen. There we go. So, okay, my review game is, I guess, kind of to preface this is a game I saw a trailer for, and I really didn't have that much interest in it. I thought it looked interesting. Obviously, I was like, okay, that looks cool, but it's not something that was like on my radar to like play. Um, and then I got a ping from Dolly, like, "Hey, do you want this? It has an Okami thing in it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, like Okami is
Okami.
my." It was like it's my favorite game, so yeah, of course. But also, like Okami's been in like they put they've put stuff from that game in a lot of other games. And it's always just kind of like a cosmetic kind of thing, you know. So I was just like, okay, cool, that's in here. But I was really what I was really shocked with finding with this game is like it makes sense thematically and with the core of what the game is Okami and Kunitsu. Oh my god, Kunitsu-Ogami. Wait, is that what it's called? Hold on. I feel like I'm
Kunitsugami.
saying
Kunitsugami.
Kunitsu-Gami. Oh my gosh, yeah. Like I feel like the core of both of these games is like tightly connected, which is what I was just like pleasantly surprised about. And it made me really start reminiscing of like Okami and why I love that game so much. And kind of digging into what that game is. So I want to I made this presentation kind of about that and about the review game. So in the beginning. Yeah, so obviously Okami is my favorite game of all time. But like in my mind, there really is like no game that kind of comes close to like encapsulating what I think video games should be. Like this game is just like it's such a transcendental like piece of art. There's so much like culture in it, which I think is so interesting with a video game because we have a lot of video games that come out, but not so many games that come out that like represent an entire history and culture of a nation, right? Like that's just kind of a rare thing. Like we might have like Stalker for Russia, but that's kind of weird. But like this is just like it's so interesting to have a video game that's like, hey, here's our culture. It's a video game, and also we really respect it and love it, and we hope you like it too. Like that's what this game is. So Okami is pretty much like it's a retelling of the kind of the like the foundation of the Shintoism uh religion. So it's kind of like the core creation myths and all of that that created Shintoism and kind of is inherent in Japanese culture is what this game is kind of retelling. So it's basically like rewriting the Bible, which is like a really interesting thing to think about. But yeah, so it's the largest religion in Japan. It's like inherent to the culture of a whole nation. So the game is just like, hey, like we know Japanese people are gonna get this, but will American people understand it? And in that moment, like when I was like 12 or 13, like that game kind of like melded with my brain, and that's when I became like obsessed with Japan. Like it's just like kind of like I was just like this thing is so different, and I started digging into anime and manga and all these things, started just discovering the whole culture and stuff. But what it does as a video game, which I think is really interesting, is it's hard to play the game with and like not feel the love and appreciation coming from the team for the source material. And like the game is more so about like the old and new age of Japan and of religion and of like disrespecting nature, which is like kind of like the classic Japanese thing. You know, you disrespect nature, you're going to get something bad in response. And you get to play as the god who's like, she's basically the main goddess of the whole Shinto pantheon. And you get to play as her. She's coming back to like cleanse the earth of all this, you know, evil stuff. But there she is. But yeah, so it's just kind of, you know, it looks like this, which is super cool, but just like it's Japanese art. It's really respectful to their culture, all that stuff. All this is going to be important for a game I'm talking about. But yeah, so this is Waka. He's a character. I want you to make sure to remember these characters here, because what's interesting about Okami, which is kind of another layer to it, is Hideki Kamiya, the guy who directed the game. He kind of made it as a love letter to his mom. Like a big thing with him and his mom is she was a calligrapher, and she did all of the text in the game. Like all the Japanese lettering and everything is hand drawn by his mom. So he kind of sees the game as the mesh of this like old and new kind of generation and thought of culture and society and these Japanese, you know, traditions kind of bridging gaps. And it's just a really interesting thing to just see kind of acted out in a video game. But yeah, here's Amaterasu. She's talking to a rice farmer, and the crops used to not be growing as she came here, and she brought the crops back. Yeah, so all these characters in the background, the characters on the wall, those are all drawn by his mother as well. Yeah, and I think a really interesting picture to kind of represent like the new and the old Japanese kind of thing, and just kind of Kamiya's general like feel and his relationship with his mom is this picture. This is like the best example of what Okami kind of is. You know, it's like this kind of like rebellious guy who loves his mom and like loves his culture and loves his, like how he was raised and all that. So that's just kind of like the core of Okami. So to me, whenever I think about Okami being used in another game, I'm just like, okay, like why? Like why is this, you know, here? Like, is it just an aesthetic thing? Is it whatever? What I was pleased to find out is that Kunitsu-Gami is kind of the same thing that Okami is. It's more so like the director is like, hey, we want to teach Americans and teach younger Japanese children about our ancient history, about our culture. And that's like exactly what this game is. It's kind of it's the same kind of story as Okami. Like you have a world that has turned away from nature and turned away from the gods, and it's like once you do that, bad stuff starts coming out. All these curses start to come out, start haunting you and cursing you. And that's essentially the story of the game. Is it takes place on this mountain right here. The mountain is called Mount. It's over here somewhere in my notes. Mount Kafuku. And what is in so it all takes place here. A curse has been beset upon this mountain because they turned away from nature. They stopped taking care of each other, stopped taking care of their environment. Everything gets cursed, and then you, the character that you play as, is this. It's not really elaborated on, but he's kind of like a puppet-like summoned deity. His name is So, and he's kind of this spiritual representation of the god of this priestess named Yoshiro. And Yoshiro is this lady who is going to go cleanse this mountain. So basically, your task is to go from the top of the mountain to the bottom and drop into all these different cities on a map. And you kind of just purify these places. So there's 23 stages, 24 if you count the last one. But the game is, you know, it seems basic, but it's once you kind of like unfold it, it's not. So the gameplay it's a really weird mix of like tower defense and character action and like resource management. So the game is like constantly split between these two phases. You have the daytime phase and you have a nighttime phase. So in the daytime phase, which if you look at the bottom left, there's a uh, little clock, and that's during the daytime. It'll also be blue, so it goes from like blue to like yellow, and so you have kind of a timer here, and that's whenever you're in the village or the stage that you're in, and you're kind of purifying the stage. Like there's these like little like vessels of guys. You'll see like on the right over here. There's these dudes over here that you have to purify, and you get items and things from them. Sometimes you get villagers, and villagers are guys who are essentially in your army. Kind of think of them like Pikmin, kind of. So you get these little guys. They're not little; they're just people. But you get them, and you get to like use them as units and stuff. So basically, during the daytime, you're kind of going around these little contained stages, and you have to kind of set up your plan of attack for the nighttime phase. So you're setting up, you're like assigning classes to your guys. You can assign warriors, archers, all these different types of classes, and each one does a specific different thing to help whenever you're being attacked by all these baddies. So essentially, you're laying them all out, setting them up, and then you have to carve down the middle of the stage. So you carve down it so your little goddess person, Yoshiro, can come down and start cleansing the city. So she has a timer from the beginning to the end where she can like stop. So you could be setting up a lot and then you have her go down and she's like in the middle of the line. And you're like, okay, now I have to protect her around here. So you have to kind of move your guys around. And there's all these other like contraptions and things you can put there. So once that happens, the nighttime comes and all these bad guys start coming out of these torii gates over here. They start pouring out. And your goal is to get to the torii gate, but they're just coming at you. So you have to defend against them and fight and use your dudes. And you got to defend your priestess. And then once the nighttime's done, the daytime happens, and you cut down, and you get to go to the torii gate, get to purge it, and then the stage is essentially done, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once you complete the stage, it's not really done because then you get to rebuild it. So you get to go around and assign your little workers. Like at max, I think you have like 8 or 9. You don't really get that many, but they carry over through all the different locations, but you can use them to rebuild each city. So basically, you assign them to a place, and then you go do another stage, and you come back. And once you do
They'll
a
come with you
stage,
to the new stages, or
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So they're just like assigned there. So I think the way they kind of like hand wave it is those villagers are from that village, but they kind of look the same. It's not like their names don't change or anything. So it kind of makes it easier for you, but they just kind of say, yeah, these guys are here. So basically you assign them to these things that fix, and so you go and do another stage, you come back, and like the stage helps progress how things are being like rebuilt. So then you get things to upgrade your army, and you get like little lore tidbits and all these little like things that kind of fill in the world. And then once you kind of do that, you get to go talk to your girl, Yoshiro. You talk to her. She has like a whole tent, and she'll like give you rewards, and you could like read like lore and see all these like tapestries and stories and things. And what's interesting is all the lore and like things you get are like real historical things. So
Mm-hmm.
they'll talk about the historical context of what they were used for at that time. So you have like food,
Wow.
you have weapons, you have people, you have like trees, you have like oni and like demons, like all these things, and they'll explain it within a historical context, which is like really cool. So like, and to get those things, you have to like replay the stages to get those things, but they encourage you to replay the stages by giving you like challenges, like don't get hit this many times, don't use a ration, don't do this. So you replay the stages, but that also helps you like move along the construction building and all these things. They kind of like keep pushing you through to keep kind of going through and seeing these stages and keep kind of trying to get the best score or beat the boss faster, whatever. But what is super cool is each stage, since it's like a different village and it's a different location on the mountain, each one is completely different. So like you'll have one that's like, here's a city that's inside of a cave and the cave's dark and you need to light the torches inside the cave before you can push through because your army can't do damage to the bad guys unless they have light on them. So you're like, okay, how do I manage my time in the setup phase to make sure she gets far enough to where she'll be safe, but also to where I can set up to make sure that everything goes along. It's just really, it's like it's a really, the best way to describe it is like it's crunchy. There's just so much like to grasp on and to think about, and it's like rough around the edges, but it encourages you to think and to just kind of keep trying at things, restart. Don't be afraid to like, try something stupid and be like, oh, that's dumb, and like try over. It's just really good. It's a really fun, thought-provoking kind of just game. And on top of that, the story is really good. It's simple. There's no voice acting or anything. It's very just like it's a silent game. And also to like harken back to this kind of idea of like culture and like wanting to pay homage to like the past is the main character. So he dances like he does these things called kagura dances, which is like this old ancient Shinto dance that kind of purifies evil spirits and stuff. So he uses those kagura dances to purify, but he's also fighting with a sword. So you're kind of like doing Devil May Cry stuff, but you're dancing at the same time. So it's really cool. And like even the girl that you're transporting from point A to point B, when she's cleaning these villages, she's dancing along the way too. And you can, it's just a really kind of special game. Like there's not really games like this that exist, which is why I'm kind of like, I'm always searching for those games that kind of like hook into something that is just so personal to the people making it. And Okami was my introduction to kind of that idea. And this is like it's like a direct connection to Okami. It's like, oh, this is the same idea behind it kind of thing. So it immediately became like, oh, I love this game. Just like kind of like after a couple hours, I was like, this game understands what it's doing. And then I was thinking like, wow, it's so cool they brought Okami over because it's like it obviously makes sense. Like, oh my god, why is Capcom making this game? This game is so weird. Like, what are they doing? It's just kind of like what's happening here, type of thing. And then there's the priestess and there's Waka. Waka's my favorite character in Okami, so I'm glad he got an outfit. He never gets anything in all these crossovers they get brought into, so I was glad that he got brought over here. But yeah, so yeah, and I also did some research, just kind of be curious about it. And the director Shuichi Kawada, he pretty much confirmed what I thought. He was just like, yeah, like we want to teach people about our culture, and we want to like make people love the world they exist in and bridge the gap between old and the new. I was like, okay, so yeah, so it's just weird. It's just like, yeah, it's a really good game. Obviously, it's weird. But yeah, it's just this. I just love when games that I weren't on my radar come out and I play them. I'm just like completely floored by it. But yeah, I highly recommend it. If you ever, it's only like $50, which is pretty good. It plays on the Steam Deck. But yeah, it's just like, and I know I tried to explain the gameplay like as good as I could, but it's just there's just a lot going on, and it's just so fun. For example, there's this boss that's like a worm, and you're in this like dark cave, and you have to light all these
I'll
candles.
share the gameplay right now while you're talking.
Yeah. So there's this like worm you have to fight in a cave. And there's all these dark candles around you, and you have to protect Yoshiro, but you also have to like move your army around so they can light the candles while you're trying to fight this guy. Because once you light the candles, the it hurts the bad guy and you can do damage to him. But you also have to micromanage your little guys to protect the priestess while you're away doing other things. So it's like you can pause the game and move your guys around and like direct them to defend and attack. So there's also that kind of like RTS micromanagement on top of like action, on top of, you know, did I pick the right classes? Is this the right thing to bring here? Like it's really crazy. It's just weird. But yeah, it's awesome. I would definitely recommend checking it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I only played the demo, and I love the demo. So.
Oh yeah, there's a demo on Steam if you want to.
Yeah.
Play that. Yeah.
Kunitsu-Gami.